I wanted to take a minute today at the beginning of the podcast and say thank you to our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. Huber has actually been a sponsor of the podcast since 2020 when we decided to start this little endeavor. Without our sponsors, this content is probably not something that happens. But I think the best part about having Huber as a partner on this is it's an incredibly authentic alignment. Peter, Steve, and I all use Huber Woods. I've been using Advantech Subfloor for coming on probably 21 years now. I've been using Zip System and Zip System with the insulation on the back, the Zip R, since 2013. It's a system that I believe in. That systems approach where things play well together. They have design parameters that allow you to use their system for what you're working on. It works. Their tech support's there. Their knowledge is there. I've never had an issue with their product, and it's a great thing that they've decided to sponsor the podcast. So thank you, Huber Engineered Woods.
All righty, America. You're probably wondering who the leading manufacturer of floating stairs and rail systems are. Yeah. It's ViewRail. They just happen to be the sponsor of this week's Unbuild It podcast. Yeah, ViewRail's work smarter, not harder basic concept lets them bring you bolt together systems that are designed throughout the construction process, design process, so they can be installed in as little as 1 day. Yeah, bringing those materials, getting that stair in, and moving on is their basic concept. So it's perfect for the builders that want to keep their schedule going. They get a 10-year warranty on their product. We're going to be using it, I believe, with a rail system on one of our houses with Jake, and we have a beautiful stair that we're working with them because they're not afraid to design those kind of out-of-the-box thoughts that some of us might have. So if you want to learn more about ViewRail, go check them out at viewrail.com. Thank you for today's sponsorship, ViewRail.
I'm Jake Bruton, and today on the Unbuild It podcast, we have a good topic we're going to talk about today, and I am joined for this topic with Peter Yost and Steve Basic.
Hey, man.
Hello.
Gentlemen, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about tips that we might give to young architects to try to make the entire process of building and design
So, like, don't age
better.
Is that one of our?
Don't get old.
Don't get old.
Steve, do you have a comment on that?
No.
I volunteered to talk about that part of the conversation.
You are the most qualified in the room to talk about the aged.
What were we talking about?
Well, at breakfast, we did talk about how your wife found a neighbor lying on the ground in the aged community.
Wow, you're allowed to bring up personal stuff about yourself, but not about others.
Okay. So I think we should preface this by none of this is like spiteful or anything like that. Like we're trying to make the world a better place with all of what we podcast about. So don't take this in an offensive way by any means.
If you're an architect, you mean?
Yeah. And we haven't recorded it yet, but one of the next things we're going to record is the same thing for builders.
Young builders. Yeah.
And so the builder topic for me will be like, these are the things that I wish somebody would have told me sooner. Unfortunately, on the architect side of things, this is going to be the, gosh, I wish somebody would tell architects.
Talk less, listen more.
You know, well, there is that, certainly. But I think that happens for everybody that's, you know, but I think as you get older, every person thinks that talk less and listen more. So who wants to start with a tip? Do I have to start with a tip?
Peter. I vote Peter.
Well, so I guess we could start with looking for places to go to school that have a background in building science or, you know, elements of building performance as part of the curriculum, because that's not a given that that's going to be part of your first 5 years in school. And so there are universities that have programs in architecture that include elements of building science. I mean, we just heard from Jake and Christy Williamson about the program at Virginia Tech. So look at the schools, see if there's faculty on staff that merge the fields of architecture, construction and engineering. That's my advice there. First tip.
I'll play off of that and say that I just spoke in the last few weeks with a young architect that was giving me advice that I could give to my oldest, who is thinking about going to school to be an architect. And she said, tell him that it doesn't freaking matter where he goes to school. He'll learn more in the first 6 months on the job than he will the entire time he's in school. So pick a school that is going to be okay for him, and then pick the right firm to work for when he gets out.
Interesting.
And so there is a counterpoint there. Like, obviously the school is going to matter on some level.
Yeah.
But her take on things was that you're not going to learn jack in school. Even if you go to an okay school, they're not teaching you how to really be an architect. You're going to learn how to be an architect in the first 2 years on the job. So there is a counterpoint there of like picking the right firm to work for is going to set you up for success for the rest of your career as well. So, I have one that is a pet peeve of mine, actually. I just said that we're not going to poo-poo on architects for this one, but I'm going to start by saying lunch and learns don't dictate good products. The number of times that we've worked with an architect and we've been like, what in the hell is this siding product that I've never heard of? And then I went to their office and I can tell that they have samples on their table, and it's because there's been a lunch and learn recently. I understand that you have to learn about new products somehow. And we have salespeople call on us at our office and want to show us stuff. And if you don't go to trade shows, you don't learn about new products sometimes. Just because someone came to your office and showed you something doesn't mean that we should use it on a job. There has to be another step beyond a salesperson came to your office and showed you something. It can't just be someone did a lunch and learn for your firm, so therefore now we should use this product. And I feel like I can almost always point and go, that was a lunch and learn product. That was a lunch and learn product. Like it is real easy most of the time for us to tell when something was somebody stopped by and showed you that recently. So that's why it's on our house now.
Wonder if we could come up with some key questions to sort of counteract on that issue of people bringing products and really not knowing much about their performance background. So that young architects could say, well, if you're talking about a cladding material, hey, is that compatible with the rain screen system? Just some basic questions about.
Be a good podcast where you could pick like top 10 questions to ask the sales rep about a product.
Yeah. Speaking of selecting schools, Steve, when your kids went looking for schools, how much did they come to you for advice about, hey, do I look for a school that has a solid background in building science?
Yeah, I don't know. When we were looking at it, honestly, it was more about what was a good fit for them. I won't say socially, but they went to two different schools.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of them went to a very small school. She was extremely comfortable there. She would have drowned in the school that Steve-Os went to. He went to Auburn. So it's like, you're with 45,000 other students or whatever. It's a city. And he thrived. He loved it. He loved going to the football games. He loved all the things that came with it. So I think putting yourself kind of in the right mindset, like he would have been very bored at her school. And so I think that helped them to be lively, and energetic to do well in both cases.
And I was thinking, given who you are, maybe it was less important that they look for a school that had the background because they were certainly going to get it from you.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with Jake. It's I'm trying to think of how not to come down on the profession and say what I want to say, but it is
just
kind of depressing. It's like, so one of my kids went to a school.
Well, hold on. Before you poo-poo or before you take that thing,
I'm just
I don't think college prepares most people for the profession that they're going to enter into.
That's probably
Fair
true.
point.
I mean, college is probably more about coming out and being organized, have some kind of commitment to doing something and figuring out what it is you're going to do. We all have to do that, I think. But to just kind of give you a sense of where the profession is, which I am pretty down on, I wrote to the president of one of the architecture schools that one of my kids went to. And I said, I'll fly down on me. I'll come down and give a lecture on building science, whatever you want, whenever you want. He didn't even reply to my email.
Wow.
Never mind decline, just failed to reply.
So this comes from the parent of a student who's a well-known architect, and they didn't even reply.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think part of the profession doesn't want to open up that can of worms because they feel like if we open that up, people are going to realize we're not the smart people that you think we are. And
I was not expecting the conversation to go this way because I thought everybody was going to say, of course, we should look for schools that have a really strong educational background in building physics. And frankly, you know, when I taught that course at Yale and I had young architects come in, I had one, when we got to the 1 week on building science, say, how come I'm not learning any of this over in the architecture program? I said, well, you'd have to ask the dean of architecture there. And when she did, the dean of architecture said, we just have too many topics and too many courses to cover. You're going to have to get that education on the job. And to me, that's, wait a minute, you know, just explaining the 4 control layers and how water and energy moves. Isn't that part of the basis that they should have?
You know, my kids would go back to school and they would send me stuff to read or whatever and say, what do you think about this, Dad? We were asked to read this and then comment on it. And they were like correcting their professors in the worlds of building science and sustainability and stuff. And it's like some of the stuff they published or gave them to read, it's like it just wasn't true or didn't make sense. And it's like, you know, go ask him these questions and then watch his head spin. You know, and it's it was pretty depressing that, and paying through the nose. Lexi, you know, her school was 6 years, his was 5, so it's not 4 years, right? And it's a costly event to be an architect. One of the things that I was absolutely astounded about, and this has nothing to do with like the building science, but Lexi was in one of her classes and she was talking to one of her teachers and she said, I'm not going to be in next week. We're going away on a cruise. And he's like, oh, you're going away? She goes, no, my whole family, my dad. But your dad's an architect. And she said, yeah. He goes, he can afford to take the whole family on a cruise. Like there's this internal architectural thing like, oh, we can't make money at it. But
that's weird.
It is weird. And I mean, I hear architects piss and moan all the time about how we don't get paid. And I say, because you don't know anything, right? And when I think about a couple things about architecture and architecture school. So architecture school really sets you up to be bummed out because you go through 5 or 6 years, you become a senior, like you're doing the coolest projects, renderings, all of this. Then you get a job that has a depressing salary because you really aren't worth anything. But you think you're the smartest person on earth, but you aren't. And so now you're stuck in the back corner doing red lines to somebody's drawings of stuff that you don't understand, but you still believe, you know, you're Zaha Hadid all of a sudden. And she's a famous architect that does really great aesthetics.
Didn't she pass?
She did pass.
Okay.
And But the idea is like you climb this ladder and then you jump off, but you don't jump off to the ground. You jump off into an abyss that you have to work your way out of. Yeah. So my advice to young architects is, you know, sit back for a second and ask yourself a simple question. Why will I get paid? Right? I get paid, like me personally, I get paid because I know stuff. People understand that I know stuff. People want to come and get that information and have it translated into their house to get the best house that they can get. So there's a lot of architects that get paid because they do pretty stuff, but that's a very small percentage. I would venture to say the largest percentage of architects get paid because of the requirement of needing drawings, not because they're smart, not because they do good work. It's because someone needs a set of drawings to put that building up. Somebody needs to draw it, stamp it. Mm-hmm. And so they're kind of the large middle ground that is a requirement. And so
they're a facilitator, not an asset.
Yeah. And you're not going to get paid a lot to be a facilitator. You're trying to figure out, how can I deliver the least product in the shortest amount of time and get paid the most amount of money? The person that's buying them from you is trying to figure out, how can I pay the least amount of money for this stuff that I need, that I'm probably not even going to use half of the information anyway. Right. So there's this huge disconnect, like in most systems, of how do we develop drawings that actually will be used, that actually can support an idea that I know something that is of value to the project. And then you'll see that you start getting paid for that information.
So, Steve, you've heard me say before that I'm really happy I'm not an architect, because I get to look at buildings through basically one lens, whereas architects, they've got so many different perspectives they have to bring. Am I right about that? That
I think you're exactly right. But the thing that I want to add that I think is the biggest hardship for what I do is I have to make a decision. Like, I'm where the rubber meets the road, right? I have to make a decision, and I don't have the luxury of a building science consultant or an energy consultant to be a Monday morning quarterback.
Right.
I have to make a choice. We have to build this. I have to figure it out because the builder is waiting for the answer. But that's, as a young architect, you have to understand that's not the problem. That's the opportunity. Because if I can provide that answer, then I can get paid for it. Right. I think one of the most telling things that I consider a huge compliment, almost every builder I've worked with for, say, more than one project, I've either designed their house or renovated it or remodeled the whole thing. So working with them, they immediately understand the value in what I bring to the table. So they're like, yeah, I want you to design my house. Right. Which I think is, again, a huge compliment.
Well, not to kiss your butt, but the first time I looked at one of your sets of plans, I was like, oh, this is going to be a totally different thing. And literally we sat, I think that client went into the gas station and you and I were sitting in the pickup and we were talking about you drawing house plans for me, and we hadn't worked together yet.
Yeah.
So in terms of more tips for young architects, so if we know that most architects, when they start, are not going to get much background in building science.
Well, let me throw a challenge out to everybody, because this is something I've been looking for probably the last 20 years, and I haven't found it, but I know it exists. There's a quote out there somewhere that I read by Frank Lloyd Wright that said, go out to where the work is being done to see how to do it. Or it's something like that, but basically go out there. And you guys know, I'm a huge advocate. Go out to the job site. And it's actually become a game for me, because those of you that know me, I don't wear the bow tie. I probably don't look like the architect when I walk up onto a job site, but I use that to my advantage. Not too long ago, I walk up to the job site and I walk up next to a guy and I'm looking at the hole where the foundation is. And I knew it was the foundation guy. And he's like, oh, hey, how you doing? I was like, good. And I just played the game. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? Are you the excavator? And I was like, no. And I wouldn't say anything. I just, no. And he's like, oh, you must be the plumber. No. And he goes, you the framer? And I was like, no. He's like, all right, who the F are you already? And I'm like, I'm the architect. He's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
And I was like, I just come by because two things. I mean, the first thing is builders think that I'm coming to check up. I'm not. Some of the smartest people I know are builders, right? And when people say, hey, you know quite a lot about building. Yeah. How do you think I got it? Because I've gone out there and I've talked to roof framers and I've asked them, you guys saw my drawings, you framed the roof. Is there something I should have added to the drawings that could have made your life better, right? Like foundation guys, give me the diagonals. Can you throw a few diagonals on corner to corner? That would help us not having to do the math, because the computer will do the exact math. I can snap from...
It takes 2 seconds for him to do it.
And diagonal, and I'll get a dimension that's 113 feet, 7 3/16.
Yeah.
So they'll know exactly what that number should be, and they'll know if they're in the ballpark or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just stuff like that. And having these conversations of, hey, what is this? How do you do this? Or the concrete guy asking, he's like, I know you do all the wall sections. Can you just put a wall section of the foundation on the foundation plan? That way there. And it was actually a general contractor. He said, that way there, I don't have to send out 6 sheets to the foundation guy. I send out 1 or 2 sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So it saves on my copying, but it also eliminates, when you think about the business we're in the business of information transfer. Mm-hmm. So I need to make that the least complicated and the most easily solved transfer of information. If I have to make a foundation guy go hunt for what size rebar goes in the footing, he gets frustrated. He does his own thing. The general contractor gets all pissy about it because, I didn't see that on page 32, right? Yeah. So having that information where the information needs to be, and I get that information by having conversations.
Well, so here's a problem though. And I think that this problem is widespread. I think that the majority of architects feel that the more information that they put on the plans, the more value they're providing for the clients. So you get 3 pages of stuff at the beginning that's just copy and paste from the code, where it's like the builder's going to verify measurements on site. All framing measurements are from rough to rough. Like all those 3 pages of stuff that every single person is going to flip past. Nobody's going to bother reading. And then you get a floor plan that has 50 other, reference this section, reference this detail, reference like that your plans don't have, that I get more than enough information from your plans. That is the reason that I get 60 pages from somebody else and I spend half my day flipping back and forth, where there's stuff that I just don't need, that I think that they actually believe that they're providing more value because there are more lines and more notes and more things, where all they're doing is making their plans more difficult for people to understand, for more difficult for people to see what's going on. And it's like, I get it that you feel that you need to cut that section twice, but you didn't. The section's the same no matter where it is in the house right there. Or the fact that you number every window independently, where we have a set of plans right now
that'll be just type A, B, C. And I started out that way, and then it got confusing. And I said, I got to stop this because the information isn't getting there.
It's like, I don't care if those 2 windows are the same. They can be number 1 and number 2.
But one might
and
be
then
tempered,
I know where
one
they
might
go.
not be. And it's like, okay, now we're playing that game.
How important do you think it is that young architects have spent some time actually working on a job site?
I think that's important. I think that might be a little overplayed. I mean, I was fortunate. I actually worked as an electrician and as a builder. It was a builder framer that did everything. He did his own concrete work. We trimmed out houses and did all that. Most of my time I was a young, strong guy, and it was like, hey, hold up this beam while we bolted together, and like holding the beam over my head, that kind of stuff. But
which way did he go, George?
Yeah, pretty much. I pick things up and put them down. Right.
I like the image of you as a bearing post.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there is some value there. But I think as a young architect, I could probably get just as much value going out and working. I mean, even now, I've literally probably put in hundreds of European windows myself. I still go out to the job site and install them I'm going next week.
Yeah.
With a builder that's never installed them, and we're going to install them together. And I guarantee I'm going to learn something because his perspective is going to be different than everybody else that I've ever worked with.
But I remember,
Sorry. I will say that Steve-Os, your youngest, is working on 3-dimensional models.
Yes.
And we were talking about him recently, and he said that has been like the biggest bump in his knowledge because looking at it in 3 dimensions has made it feel like he's been on the job site.
He has to put it together.
So it feels like he's on the job site. So there is maybe that's the solution for people that don't want to be on the job site. Being able to build it in 3 dimensions now with Revit and things like that is a different system.
So for me, it's partly the intimidation factor. I remember the first time I went on a job site, working for my brothers.
Was it in black and white?
In my head.
They had that steam shovel like spun around.
You had
the bottom
steam?
out.
No,
they were dragging stone blocks.
The guy with the rivet bucket.
It's all the tools you don't understand. It's all the terminology that you don't understand. It's people looking at you crosshaired like, what's this guy doing on the job site?
Camaraderie that doesn't involve you.
So I think the reason a lot of people don't go to job sites is they can be pretty scary places if you don't have sort of that sense of what it means to be something other than the design expert. Steve, we
know different pieces of information because I played that game. I've been intimidated because there are some builders that know shit done more than I do about building, but they might understand about the floor joist, but do they really understand like what a moment, the deflection and what shear really are? Right. So they don't know that. So we have a little bit of information transfer there. Like, hey, I know you know what you're doing because you've done it 1,000 times, but you really don't know why it needs to be done that way. So we can educate each other, and I have.
So it's interesting because we're talking about the why of things and the how of things, because you could be an architect and not know why it goes together that way or how. And so those are a big part of.
But it's like for me, it's a search for knowledge, right? I tell people, okay, everybody writes their own story. And I've even told my kids, it's like, what does your story want to be? The kid that sits on the couch playing with his phone or the one that searches out knowledge to be a better architect? Like you're writing your own story.
Yeah.
I work an immense amount of time. I go out to the job sites a lot. Shooting video forces me to understand things because now I have to think about every aspect of that because I'm transferring information. And it even extends, like when I talk to my structural engineer, I send him the drawings and he comes back. We always have a 20 or 30 minute conversation. And it goes something like, John, I know you sent it back. I agree. Okay, that's going to be that. But I just have a couple questions because I want to understand what's happening in this shear wall. And I'll ask questions and then I'll get that knowledge of, well, that's why we put this little piece of steel plate in here because we're worried about it crushing if the frame actually gets challenged as a moment frame or whatever the case is. Why are these bolts this size? Why is this thickness? Or, those kinds of questions. Or what's the most important mode of failure here that I'm looking at? Is it shear? Is it bending? Is it tear out? What's happening here? What should I be concerned about? So then I can go to the builder and also say things like, hey, when you put this up, pay close attention to this aspect of what we're doing. All the other stuff, it matters, but this really matters.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I take the approach of letting the architects I work with know that feel lucky that I only have to look through one lens is that,
which I keep thinking of as a monocle. Sorry.
What's funny is one of my favorite tools of the trade is a Hastings triple lens magnifying glass. So I often am looking through a little monocle type thing. I'll take a picture of myself with that to send it to you. But
clink.
What it does is it lets the architects know, hey, I'm going to help you with a new perspective, but I am not an architect. So you shouldn't think that I have all the answers. I just have a different perspective in terms of the way I look at the building.
Well, and architects are really you want to talk about an occupation that wears a set of blinders.
As opposed to more lenses as blinders.
Yeah, we're horrible. And we know that, all three of us, because we'll give a class to 50 or 100 people. A bunch of them are architects. And what happens after? They come up and say, hey, can I talk to you about this project that we're working on? And it's like, after his 5-minute explanation, I'm like, we just spent 2 hours talking about that. Like the answer was there. Well, I know that, but I just specifically, I want to know what the material I should use here is.
Yeah.
And they're such a no peripheral vision at all.
And not learning how to fish.
And not learning how to fish.
Yeah.
They want you to put the fish in the boat. And that gets back to the drawings. One of the things I do, we're down here, Risinger Build. I'll go out to that front desk and I flip through drawings. I want to see other architects.
Mm-hmm.
How do they lay out drawings? Is there something that I can get out of it? Like some architects dimension to the center of the wall. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. I cannot get around. Why would you, in a commercial project, I understand why you're doing that. But in a
why would you do it in a commercial setting?
A commercial project, because you probably have like 10 or 20 different wall types.
Oh, okay.
In residential, you don't. So some of them might have insulation on this side, nothing on that side, something padded out for acoustic reasons on this side, or whatever. And so the center line, it matters if you're trying to make that whole wall assembly in the center of something. In residential construction, after the frame is up, everything gets measured off the frame. The dimensions really don't matter anymore. What matters is 5'6" off of that wall is where this wall should be, not where this wall should be.
So in terms of tips, what do you think are the best postgraduate educational opportunities that they should take advantage of?
I think you can't go to a job site enough. And, my challenge, I didn't finish it. If anybody finds that Frank Lloyd Wright quote, please send an email to the podcast and let me know where you found it, because I want to use it. But I think, and I say that as it doesn't have to be your job site. You and I have literally pushed fences over, climbed over fences because we saw something.
We've never broken the law.
I did.
Yeah.
That's a yes. Yes, I have.
Did I ever tell you? So we're in Colorado, and I'm with some builder friends, and there's a fence, and I say, let's go, and I want to see this, because there was something that wasn't right. And I was like, let's go. And they're like, well, there's cameras here. I'm like, we're just going in to see.
We're just breaking. No, I mean, we're just going in.
So
we're not going to take anything.
We were able to push the fence and stuff out of the way, and we got in there. Well, it wasn't even 5 minutes later. There's an older Asian guy walking in the road, and he's on the phone. And we can hear him. He's like, I can see them. They're in your house. They're on the second floor. and he's like, because he was the neighbor that was telling the homeowner that lives somewhere else. He was obviously a watchdog. And so I came to the window and I said, hello, sir. I said, we're just here, just taking a tour. And he goes, oh my God, it's that famous YouTube guy. He's in your house, and he's yelling in the phone.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, everybody I was with cracked up, but it was okay. But my point is, you and I have pushed fences, and we've gone in to understand. We've put our dumb horse meter. It's like, hey, that doesn't look right. The only way you can find this stuff out is you have to go where it's being done. And even commercial projects, if I go to the doctors, there's always something at Mass General happening.
Yeah.
I'm shooting videos of the slurry wall getting built and all this stuff because I'm just fully intrigued. And it's like, well, why did they put it over there and not here? Why are they doing this and not that? And asking those questions helps me understand because architecture, when you're sitting there doing a detail, a lot of architects think, I just need to draw the detail. I think I need to draw the detail, but it needs to be executable, right? And it needs to make sense. So if we're part of the team, my job is to be in support of the team, right? Yeah. Not for the team to look at me like I'm the one that's expected to hit the home run. No, it's all about if I'm giving information, the last thing I ever want to do is draw something that isn't going to be used. I feel like a failure with that. And I've seen architectural prints, like you said, Jake, but they'll copy things out of Boise Cascade, the do's and don'ts of I-joist. And I'm like, why would you do that? Yeah. That's your job as a contractor. You're in charge of making sure that you're putting in that equipment. I've had heated arguments with building inspectors because they're like, well, we want this on the drawings. I'm like, it's in the code book. Yeah, we need it on drawings. I'm like, then what the hell do we have a code book for?
Yeah.
Like the
I
whole
hate that.
reason for the code book is the builder applies the code book. The architect applies the code book. Nothing in here is not.
It shouldn't have to reference you shouldn't have to put anything that's a copy and paste on the plans.
If I put the dimensions to the stairs and they conform to within the requirements of the code, I shouldn't have to list all treads are blah, blah, blah per section 303 of the code.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
But they do it.
Before we move on, I think it's important that we note that the official stance of the Unbuild It podcast is not to trespass. Or we.
So I think what I'm going to do is, for the resources for this podcast, I'd like each of us to give our favorite educational type of event or actual event that we would recommend to a young architect.
Well, I mean, we could just start out. Go read buildingscience.com. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there is so much information there.
Even
See, I
just
wouldn't
sign up
do that.
for the
Because
sign up
that's
for the newsletter.
terrifying. That's way too much
Well,
information.
it's terrifying, but you know what? A lot of my success is because of fear. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, I've done hundreds of window schedules. I'm still scared to death. I mean, I just did one. I will review it, and homeowners like, we really need to order those windows. I know, but you know what? We're not going to order them for a couple of days because I'm going to shelf it. And then in 48 hours, I'm going to go through it again. Because if I go through it right away, I'm just going to repeat
you'll just
and I'll overlook the mistake.
Yeah.
But if I shelve it and then take a look at it, usually then I will catch something. Plus, we have the window. We have a setup. So like Jake will look at it, I'll look at it, and the people from European Architectural Supply. So between the three sets, we pretty much catch everything.
We take it one step further. In our office, I look at it, and then the project manager looks at it, and then Brandon looks at it. So we have 3 people in our office look at it because we're not about to spend $200K and have it shipped from Europe and it be freaking wrong.
The other thing I'm worried about is that somebody going to a website like buildingscience.com and just asking AI to pull up the right information.
Oh,
No,
And-
sign up for the newsletter. You get 1 email a week from them, read that, and then go, I don't understand something that Joe
Fair
said
enough.
in this
Joe's
article.
paper.
I need to go to the website and read something
but
that's
you have to
adjacent
start
to that.
somewhere,
True.
right?
Yeah.
So
I was thinking of starting with Joe's Building Science Fundamentals course.
There you go.
That's a
That's
really good place to start.
good too.
Yeah.
That's good too. Come and see us out on the road. Come and talk to us. Right? Building science symposiums or whatever.
Yeah,
Watch our videos on the Build Show. I mean, I'm putting down all kinds. I put details up on all of my videos and talk about them.
Cool.
Okay. That was not as angry as I thought it might have turned, or
Well, I don't
belittling
think
in
it's-
any way, shape, or form.
I don't think it's angry. I think it's, and
We're
I
a
won't even
team.
say it's
I want it to
depressing.
be a
It's just,
team.
and I think everybody, regardless of how you are, if you're a salesman and you told me you sold $5 million worth of product last year, I'm going to ask you, why didn't you sell 6? Right. So
Ahead.
it's the same thing about what we do. If you say, well, I worked 80 hours this week and I learned this, it's like, well, why didn't you work 82 and learn a little bit more? Right. Like there's always, I understand you have to stop somewhere, but there's always should be that I'm still learning every day. I'm learning something, and it's more because I'm pursuing it. Right. That, hey, I have no idea what these guys are doing up there. Let me go ask them.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay.
Anyways.
Thank you for listening today on the Unbuild It podcast. If you have questions or comments, certainly this one might strike comments with some people.
I can't wait for tomorrow. Because my mom says I get better every day.
Nice. On that note, questions at the Unbuild It or questions at unbuilditpodcast.com, and have a nice day.
See ya.
Find me that quote.